Hi there, Mickey Kasemba here with another Business Center video. Today's video is going to focus on the new features found in 3.6, version 3.6 of the software, which came out a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of new great content in this version. If you'd like additional information as to what's new, you can find information in the release notes, which are located in the support menu, the help group. It's this release notes button right here. If I click that, it opens up a PDF document outlining what is new with this release. So I'll be covering quite a bit in high level in this video, but if you'd like more granular information, you can find that here in this document. As I mentioned, we'll be covering quite a bit, so let's get started. The first thing I'd like to show you are some usability and performance updates. The first has to do with our project options. So if you go to the project menu, the options group, we have our project options right here. These options are things like your highlight color, cursor color, your pick aperture, different settings that change the look and feel of Business Center. They're specific to you, the user, and the computer you have Business Center installed on. We now have the ability to actually save these settings and create an importable and exportable file which saves these settings. So if you want to send your same project options to another computer or send them to another user, we can do so by coming down here, going to Manage Options, selecting Export to create an exportable file, or selecting Import to bring one in. So that's up in the Project Options command. In the Options menu, we go down to Manage Options, and we're now able to save our settings between different users and different computers. Another thing I want to show you here is the new toggle visibility capabilities we have. So if I turn on a surface in Business Center, say this original ground surface, in order to turn this surface off previously, we would have had to go through our View Filter Manager, come over here and uncheck this surface. But with version 3.6, we now have the ability to simply select the item, right-click, and then down at the bottom of the context menu, we have this toggle visibility button. So it's just a shortcut to be able to turn off different surfaces, background images, point clouds, things like that. So toggle visibility just by selecting the surface or image, going down to the bottom of the context menu and selecting toggle visibility. So a nice little shortcut for turning objects on and off. The next thing I want to show you is a new export feature which allows you to export data only as two-dimensional data. So if you ever have a user who wants to work just with 2D data, we have the ability upon exporting a CAD file, either a DWG or DXF, we have the ability to flatten all of our line work upon export. What I'm going to do is go up to the project menu, the data group, and then export. And I'll select my CAD tab here, and I can select either DWG or DXF. I select the line work I want to export, highlight it, and now you'll see in this settings section, I now have this set elevations to 0 option. And if I change that to yes and then hit export, the DXF or DWG file that gets exported will no longer have elevations tied to it. So we have the ability to flatten our project and our line work upon exporting now. The next few commands I'm going to show you have to do with Business Center's modeling capabilities. And the first thing I'll show you has to do with elevation control. So oftentimes when you're changing the elevation of an object in Business Center, we used to have to type in a specific vertical offset or a specific elevation, whether we are offsetting lines or creating line strings. Business Center now supports the use of slope percentages and slope ratios when using commands like offset line or create line string. So I'll show you what I mean here. So I'm going to select this line here, right click, go to offset line. I'll name the line offset. My offset distance 5 feet. We'll go to the outside here. And then my vertical offset, I used to have to type in 1 or 2 feet or do the math if it's a slope, a 10% slope or a 2% slope. Now what I'm able to do is actually just type in, say I want it to slope down at a negative 5% slope. I type in negative 5%, hit enter, and it offsets the line, does the math for you. You know, negative 5% is negative 2.5 tenths at that 5 foot distance. So that's how we can now enter in different elevations when we are creating line strings or offsetting lines. If I were creating a new line string, I'd come up here, create line string, name it line, and I pick the starting point of my line, click it, type in an elevation, 1235, let's say. I hit enter. Then I select the next coordinate for my line. I'll click here, and now it wants me to define my elevation. I no longer have to just type in an elevation. I can actually just put in, let's say it's increasing at a 2% slope. Just type in 2%, hit enter, and you'll see it elevated it from 1235 to 1236.765. So it does the math for you. So when you're creating line strings or offsetting lines, Business Center now supports slope percentages and slope ratios. The next update has to do with new capabilities to name our objects. Oftentimes when we bring in CAD data from the engineer, the line work can either have no name tied to it or some nonsensical name that we don't want to see out in the field. So Business Center came out with this name objects command. It's in the edit menu, edit group, name objects. All I need to do here is type in or select a line that I would like to rename, and then type in the new name for the object. So I'll just call it contour. I can then hit apply, and it'll say named the object contour. I can select auto advance if there are a number of objects I want to name contour. You'll see here I just keep clicking and it'll keep renaming our objects. So when you're working out an SCS 900 and all your lines are labeled unnamed DXF or unnamed line, you can now change the names of that line work pretty easily in Business Center. Next we have the relayer objects command. It is also found in the edit menu, edit group, and it's found right here. So previous to this command, if we wanted to change multiple pieces of information, wanted to change its layer, we would have to select that information, right click, go to properties, and change the layer in the properties menu. But now with relayer objects, we can simply select the data and choose a new target layer, and all of that data will now be transferred to a different layer. So that's relayer objects. It allows you to quickly change the layer for multiple pieces of information. The next new capability we have is the ability to create leader lines. You can find the create leader lines command in the drafting menu, label objects group, and it's this command right here, create leader lines. We can select our leader line type, line with arrow. We need to select our target label, so in this case I'll select this contour label. And what I can then do is drag the location of the label and a leader line will then be created showing the insertion point of that label. This will be handy for adjusting the location of different spot elevations and other labels. The next new feature I'm going to cover is elevating an object to a surface. So I've got a line string here with 0 elevation tied to it. I'm going to go up to the data prep menu, the elevate group, and the change elevation command. And we've got our typical delta elevation, absolute elevation, and undefined elevation options, but we now have this surface elevation option. So what we are able to do is select a surface from which to which I'm going to elevate my line. And by selecting finish grade and hitting apply, this line has now adopted the surface's elevation wherever it interacts with that surface. So you can see here my line string is now brought up in line with all my contours and my surface in general. The next new command we have is the fillet/chamfer command, which is found in the CAD menu, the lines group, and it's this fillet/chamfer command right here. What the fillet/chamfer command allows me to do is select any 2 line segments right here and right here. And what Business Center will do is either create a fillet or a chamfer based on various radiuses or chamfer distances between the two lines. So this is the new fillet/chamfer command. The next command I'll showcase is the new variable offset command, which is found in the CAD menu, the lines group, and it's this variable offset line command seen here. What this command allows us to do is offset a line at varying elevations, various elevations based off the reference line. So what I'm able to do is I'll just name my line and select my reference line. In this case, I'll just select this line string here. And we have the option to do variable offsets for just 2D, various elevations specified, as well as cross slopes. I'll select cross slope. And what we're able to do is select individual locations, horizontal locations for the nodes of our new line string, but we specify the cross slope from the reference line. So in this case, I'll type in maybe 5%. You click apply. Then we just add in new nodes by clicking along our reference line. In this next node, I'll select 10% as my offset. Click apply, and you'll see this dialog box populates as we add in our new nodes and gives us elevations at each node. And then on this last one here, I'll type in 2:1. You can also put in slope percent, or you can put in slope ratios as well as slope percentages. So once I have my nodes in, my line is offset, I can then go into my 3D view, and you'll notice the different elevations for this new line we just offset. This command can come in handy when you're oversizing for foundations or anything else like that. The final new feature I'll show you has to do with creating boundaries from existing closed lines. What we now have the ability to do when we are creating a boundary in Business Center is, if I go up to the CAD menu, the lines group, and create boundary, we can name our new boundary just as we would before, but now instead of selecting an alignment corridor or a polygon as we did before, we now have this polygon from a line option, in which we can select an existing line string that is enclosed, and we can create boundaries out of existing closed line work. So, nice little shortcut for creating boundaries going forward from existing line work. Well, that wraps it up. I appreciate your time. I know I threw a lot at you, but there was a lot in this release. If you need further detail as to what went into this release, once again, the support menu, the help group, and it's this release notes icon right here. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. Feel free to reach out at any time. Otherwise, have a great day. Thank you.